Embark on a career journey that transcends boundaries and impacts communities. Join the state of Nebraska, where innovation meets purpose and your contributions shape the future. As a valued member of our team, discover a broad range of opportunities spanning from public service to cutting-edge technology. Be a part of something bigger, where your skills make a difference, your growth is fostered, and your commitment to excellence is celebrated. With hundreds of positions waiting to be filled, Nebraska state government opens doors to fulfilling careers. Explore these opportunities at statejobs.nebraska.gov. Click on the Find a State Job link and take the first step towards your next great career in the Cornhusker State. This is the Good Life, Great Careers podcast, your gateway to a world of career opportunities within Nebraska state government. In each episode, we present a different state public servant as our honored guest, offering them a platform to share their unique journey in public service. Join us as they provide valuable insights, offer tips, and perhaps unveil exciting opportunities within their state agency.
Welcome to the Good Life, Great Careers podcast. My name is Brian Svick, and I am the Director of Workforce Training and Development for the state of Nebraska. And I'm joined again by my co-host, Caitlin Betts, who is the Director of Talent Acquisition for the state of Nebraska. Today, our guest is Deirdre Barney. She's from the Department of Agriculture for the state. The Department of Agriculture encourages and promotes the interest of agriculture through advocacy and education. They also regulate the agriculture industry to ensure the health and safety of all Nebraskans. They focus on a few primary areas. Ag promotion and development is one, also animal and plant health protection, and food safety, as well as consumer protection. Deirdre is part of the Food and Safety Consumer Protection area, and in her role, she processes applications for food permits and renewal payments for existing permits, as well as reports for food complaints. Deirdre, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule.
Thank you.
We're really happy to have you here today.
Excited to be here.
To start off, I would just like to turn it over to you. If you could share with us and our listeners a little bit about yourself, who is Deirdre Barney, and maybe a little bit about your career journey that brought you to the state of Nebraska as well.
Okay, sure. Well, thank you. My name is Deirdre. I grew up here in Lincoln ever since I was 3. And so, of course, graduated high school here and college. More or less, my career journey has been mainly customer service, so helping the public in however you will. And I feel like I've done it in all medias, like over the phone, in person, via computer, you name it. Customer service for me is what I like to do to help people.
What school did you? What high school?
I went to Lincoln High School.
Lincoln High Link.
Yes,
all right.
Indeed, class of 91.
All right, I graduated in 92, not from Lincoln, Norfolk, so that's awesome, yeah.
Well, we're so excited that you're here, and the Department of Agriculture, I think, is so interesting in all the different areas. So can you tell us a little bit more about your role specifically and those food permits? Who do those go to?
Yes. So with those food permits, they kind of pretty much run the gamut in what I do. There are food permits, there's liquor licenses to work with. There's also dairy permits that I also work with. So there's a lot of people that need different permits for different things. My job is to make sure that that process goes smoother from the beginning. So you normally get calls from people that'll say, hey, I want to open up a restaurant or open up my own coffee shop and stuff like that. What do I do to get started? So what I do is I go ahead and pass it on to an inspector who is skilled in that, who will tell them what it is that they need before, starting the process, if you will. Now for liquor requests and stuff, that's what I do. I work in conjunction with the Liquor Commission. And what they do is they send our office liquor requests for people who want to acquire a liquor license. What I do is I'm pretty much the liaison. I pass that request on to the inspector, have them go through that, and then they'll send that request back to me, whether or not it's been approved, and then I'll get it back over to Liquor Commission from there. But mainly what I work with most of all is the food permits. There's also a dairy department within our Food Safety and Consumer Protection that they'll handle that. Although I'm knowledgeable in it, it is with someone, but it's with someone else. But if they have any questions on it, I'm able to, help out. So in my 3 years that I've been, with the Department of Agriculture, I pretty much I've worn quite a few hats, if you will.
How many state teammates are there in Department of Ag? How big of an agency
it's
is
pretty
it?
big.
Okay.
So it's pretty large. Like when you have those programs that you mentioned, there's teams of that, teams of animal and plant, those with, pesticide and fertilizer and stuff like that. So it's their own different teams. Now, I'm just going to give a ballpark. I think we have about almost 100 or 200 people in the whole program. I could totally be wrong, but from what I see from my vantage point, vision wise, that's what I'm going to bring up. So,
cool. So do you have the opportunity to work with some of those other like focus areas, or do you mostly stick with the food safety area?
So to be honest, I normally just stay with the food safety program. However, if there's like little things that they may need, like, hey, someone's gone and we could just use some help, like stuffing envelopes or something like that, we will always help each other out with that. So, yeah.
So you also handle food complaints, or right? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yes.
And also, if you're able to and willing, without naming names, any interesting stories from maybe that aspect?
Those are very interesting. So food complaints that come in from all over the state. Okay. A lot of times it could be one or two things. There are some that are very serious, but then there are some that are just like not trying to call the information not serious or anything like that. Right. But some will call for just, little things and stuff. So, it runs the gamut. There are some people, like when I take that complaint, they'll be like, okay, what city is that in? It was like, okay, it's not Lincoln, so it's all good. Now, we do have 3 counties that they handle their own inspections, if you will, within the state. That's Hall County, Lancaster County, and Douglas County. Okay. So when a food complaint comes in from those areas, I will type out the report and send it over to those health departments, because they are the ones that will deal with that matter. However, other counties and other cities, those are the ones that we handle as the state. And once I put that report through, it goes through my program manager, and the program manager will dole out which inspector will go out there.
Okay. Are the complaints typically, I'm guessing it can probably run the gamut, but is it restaurants? Is it maybe grocery or both, or even?
It is both. Okay. It is both. Mainly, but the majority of it is restaurants. Okay. Of course. So yeah, it's always interesting, and it's normally like the same thing, mold, or there's no hot water. You really can't operate when there's no running hot water. Or something like there's roaches and stuff like that. So what we do is we have to be specific in that report. So that way, when the inspector goes out there, they know exactly where to go and take a look at it.
And then is that, so you're receiving the complaints, but I'm assuming each municipality, you talked about how there's inspectors in these 3 different counties, but I'm guessing that each municipality probably also has compliance regulations that they have that these businesses have to. If you get complaints, do you have to work with these municipalities then on their level, or is it just at the state level you're handling it? Do you ever pass on to maybe another city or entity that's outside those other 3 counties?
So to be honest, with those food complaints for the state, then the state inspector has to go out there. Okay. I think they override the city when it comes to that. Okay. We've had city people, like, hey, I'm calling from Norfolk. This is a complaint from one of our businesses here. So we get those also. Okay. So because it'll take a state inspector or one of those inspectors from those jurisdictions that I mentioned to go out there and take a look. Okay. All right. So you can get calls from municipalities too then to investigate further, inspect it. Yes. Okay. And in fact, we also get emails from DHHS when someone contacts them. Oh, okay. And what they'll do is they'll write up a brief report and send it over to us, to which I'll then type up a report and send it over to my program manager. Okay.
So you type up the report and then they take it, and then do they always investigate, or do they look at the level of the complaint? Or?
So to be honest, I really don't know, because we are not to judge when someone calls in. None of us are going to say, hey, this is not enough for it to get to an inspector. That's not our job to do so. Sure. Our job is to take that report. In fact, listen more than anything, because these people just want to talk about, hey, this experience just kind of did something to me and stuff like that. I'd like to be that ear, and also to be the one to assist. So once I do that report, it's pretty much out of my hands. It's really up to the program manager to decide to get that over to the inspector and what have you.
Yeah. I'm sure that people calling in appreciate having that person to speak with and listen to their concerns. Sounds like it's probably pretty rewarding. What do you find most rewarding about your role?
Helping the people more than anything. I, just outside here, I'm also a customer. I'm also a consumer. So the type of customer service I give, I will hope to receive that in return when I'm out of that role and just being like a citizen.
So Department of Agriculture. I mean, there's some agencies you hear their name and you're like, I didn't know Nebraska had a department for that. But agriculture makes sense. We're an ag state.
Yes.
What I find fascinating though with the Department of Agriculture is the variety really of what the agency does.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit just broader about the agency itself and just, in the introduction, we touched on that of the different things, but if you could just talk a little bit about all the aspects of what, at a high level of what Department of Ag does for the citizens of the state, because I think a lot of our listeners maybe don't realize all that your agency does.
Gotcha. So the Department of Agriculture is like an umbrella of many of the programs that are in there, like you mentioned, animal and plant, pesticide, food safety and consumer protection, those, if you will. I like how they broke all that down because you have specialized people in those areas that are able to assist the client or the consumer much more in that area. I may not know much about like ag promotion or anything like that, but I sure can get you over to someone who will and who will assist you in the perfect way possible. What I do like about my department is that it seems like every team member, they're very helpful and they're very open, and I think that's the importance of being in a department, whether it be Department of Agriculture, DHHS or whatever. We work for the people, and we do want to make sure that they know that we're out there. And that we are able to assist you. Even though you call in on my line and I'm food safety and consumer protection, I will make sure that I'll get you over to someone in that department that will assist you. So it's because my main focus is the food safety program. I do have much respect, when I have, just a little bit of information about what each program does.
Yeah, we did. So on my training team, we did a few years ago a workshop for the weights and measures team. I think it was Barney, where it was hosted. But I was talking to some of those folks, and even that, at the time I didn't realize. Oh yeah, I mean it makes sense. But and now when I go fill up my car with gas, or I'm at the grocery store and I see the produce scale, it's like that little Department of Ag sticker on there, and it's just and so all these years didn't realize that's yet another area that Department of Ag is serving citizens of the state. So I just think it's a fascinating agency from that standpoint of all that you do.
And you know what? I agree with you too. When I started working with food safety and consumer protection, I did a ride along for weights and measures with an inspector and how their process is, and then putting that sticker on there. Yeah. And the same when they do scales or devices, if you will, at grocery stores. Yeah. So whenever I'm at the grocery store or at the gas station, I'm like, Yep. So it makes me proud to be able to point that out. Yeah. That also lets me know it's bigger than me. So that is like, wow, okay, what I do is very important. What my teammates do is very important, and I'm glad to be part of that.
That's awesome.
So I understand your state career actually started in another agency. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey through those positions and how you got to where you are now?
Yes, indeed. So I've worked before the government sector. I've of course worked customer service in every place. When I graduated in 2010 from UNL, I remember the keynote speaker saying, "Okay, there's no jobs out there, but you got to be innovative. Yeah. You got to find a way to carve your own space out there." And so with many little jobs and stuff that I've appreciated, I was really ready to just do something to stick my career. And so someone suggested the SOS program. Now, the SOS program with the state, I didn't know they had that. I didn't know. Or when I was talking with you earlier, there were a couple of attempts that I've done, in the past years, but I was so hung up on the typing test that I really never got in. But with the SOS program, they didn't focus on my typing, and my typing's gotten better, just so you know. But they got me into DEE. That's the Department of Environment and Energy. So what my role there was, I just pretty much scanned your documents. I was in this giant file room and I'm just scanning documents. And that's my first experience with OnBase, so I'm like, it's good to learn that skill. Now, of course, COVID happened. So everybody in my department had to pack up and go. And at one point, Ann McBride, she's the one that hired me on, and I thank her to this day. She was like, I'm going to try to find something for you. And so what she did was she kept me to scanning and filing, but she also had me connect people from working from home to certain databases, in the department. So that I felt so needed in it, and it was really great, so. And this honestly was not customer service, And so that was a part of it that was just like, wow, I missed the public, but I'm glad to be scanning and still keeping busy. And so I worked DEE for 2 years. And then once a position came up with the Department of Agriculture, I jumped on it because I knew I wanted to really further my career with the state of Nebraska.
Just for our listeners, a lot of them probably don't familiar with that term or what that is. You want to talk just briefly about the SOS program?
Yes, absolutely. So the SOS program is our in-house temporary service, essentially. When an agency has a need for a temporary resource, they reach out to my talent acquisition team, and we have a pool of candidates ready to be placed in those assignments. So our temporary assignments can last from 1 day to 1 year, and they're everything from scanning documents to we've had mosquito counters, corrections officers, doctors, lawyers, and a lot of office staff. So there's a ton of opportunity. It's a great way to get your foot in the door, gain some experience with the state, and see what opportunities are out there. I think that's one of the great things about this podcast is we get to learn about all these super unique things that the state does, like food permits. I had no idea, but the SOS program is a way you can maybe get a glimpse of some of those too.
Yeah. Yep. And I just think it makes your story so compelling then, because it's through that mechanism, through that avenue, you're able to, get your foot in the door now, starting out and building this career.
I'm so sorry.
Go ahead.
So what I do is that when there are people that I know that look for jobs, that's the first place I go. Yeah. I'm like,
love that.
Have you thought about working for the state? If so, go to the SOS program.
That's
and
awesome.
so and I was like, Google it and figure that out, fill it out, call you in and stuff like that. So I've had a couple of people who's like, okay, I'm in with the state and permanent now. So I'm like, hey.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And you've mentioned it a little bit throughout some of your answers, but you work with other agencies. You work with DHHS and the Liquor Control Commission. I think that's another cool thing is just sometimes we feel like, oh, well, we're just our agency, but there's so much more, and the partnerships and all that are really cool.
Yes, there is. As a matter of fact, Teresa Curry, she is pretty much my boss, and she oversees food safety and consumer protection. She is the one that encourages us to go to Weights and Measures, learn something about that. Go to animal and plant health, see what it is that they do, just sit down and really talk with them. And that way you get to learn so much about other people, what their duties are and what it is that they do and how we connect, and stuff. So it's pretty rewarding knowing that. And it's like, wow, it's cool what you do.
Yeah.
Say that and cool what you do.
And what a great culture, to
yes.
get that. So that's fantastic. We've covered a lot. Is there anything we haven't touched on that you would like to share? Any insights, any lessons you've learned, any funny jokes you want to share?
There's a lot of funny jokes that come through. I'll be honest, I can't really think of anything offhand. Yeah. But of course, when I get in my car and drive back to work, I'm like,
of course.
I could have told him about that, So, no, just pretty much how I like my environment and where I work with and who I work with and stuff, and just pretty much what our goal is, what our focus is. So.
All right. Well, I think we're ready then to move into our infamous hot seat, which isn't really a hot seat, but have a little fun before we close out here. Okay. So start with an easy one. It's just, what's your favorite food?
I like Chinese food. I love it.
Favorite dish?
My favorite dish is General Tso's chicken. I love it with a couple of egg rolls. But now I have to watch my diet now. So I'm working out. So I'm finding different things that I like. So now salad and different ways to make it, so it's not just lettuce, you can use cucumbers, you can use other things to turn
make it
into
interesting
that are vegetables. So I'm learning to love that part of it. You know,
Yeah,
I like
that's
salad,
great.
but being more creative with it. So
Yeah.
still
Love
Chinese food, but
You have a favorite restaurant?
I like Mr. Huey's.
Okay.
And Panda. So.
Awesome. Do you dress up for Halloween?
Yes, I do. However, when it falls like in the middle of the week, then it's hard to get into it, you know? And plus we moved to a place where there's no children that'll come trick or treat. So you have to find things to make it interesting.
Yeah.
So yes, I will dress up.
What's your favorite costume you've ever done?
I was the Black Widow one time. And pretty much what that was is just a long black ball gown, a black veil, and holding black roses. So couldn't nobody see your face. I would just walk in and they'll be like, oh God, okay. And I'm like, good, that is the thing.
Those are some of the best costumes though. I mean, it's simple, but yet it's, you know, striking. And so, you know.
Yes, you know. And
I'm not gifted in that way. I have friends who are really good at doing costumes like that. And they make it so simple.
And I've done theater. So dressing up with costumes and stuff, that's my go-to. I love it.
Yeah.
You know, so of course I'm just like, all right, let's think about what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
You know, what I'm going to be, you know, and also Storm was one of my favorite costumes.
Yeah, I like it. If you had to choose between the superpowers of invisibility and super strength, which one would you pick?
I would have it be super strength because I've always loved Superman. You know?
I think I would pick super strength too.
Oh.
What's your favorite genre of music?
So, okay. Right now it's the 80s.
Okay.
Right now it's the 80s. I'm a Gen Xer. So that brings back so many memories of like MTV, the fashion, the just our slang and stuff like that. It's the 80s.
Well, any favorite artist or let me ask you this. What's, sorry, I'm stealing.
No, you're fine.
Best album of the 80s?
To me, it was Thriller.
Yep.
To me, it was Thriller. So, I mean, but I have a love for all of it, you know, but to me, the one that would be Thriller.
Yeah. That seems to be the consensus number one.
Yep, it is, you know.
City life or countryside?
Okay. Growing up as a city kid, I love city life, but I love small towns. So country living, yes. Yeah. Going to Columbus, driving to Columbus, Seward, and those areas, I just love that area. So I always say to myself, if I retire, I would like to retire in a small town and just, you know, do that.
Well, I live in a small village of about 180. We'd love to have you.
Oh, awesome. See, that's what I like. Yeah. And where I got it from, honestly, or more that cultivated that was those Hallmark Christmas shows and stuff. There's that one particular village or that one town. And I'm like, I want to be there.
Yeah, and they have that Christmas tree lighting.
Yes, exactly. That's what I like.
Yeah.
So yes, simple,
I like that.
Country living.
Yeah. If you could travel back in time, what time period would you visit?
The 80s.
Yep. I should have guessed.
The 80s, definitely.
Yep. Do you sing karaoke?
I did one time, and that was the signal to never ever do it again.
What did you sing?
I remember it. It was Dust in the Wind. Dust in the Wind. Right. And it was at the watering hole when they had it. And I remember it, and I just was very I don't know. Afterwards, when they get the
yeah, you're like, all right.
That's when you're like, okay,
maybe I won't do that again. Do you have a favorite sport?
Really, no favorite sport. No favorite sport, but I've always been fascinated with synchronized swimming.
It is really
always been fascinating me.
I don't know how they sail together.
It's
amazing.
It's so graceful above the water, and if you ever see like the camera underneath, it's like it's incredible.
Wild, yeah.
Yes.
Do you have a go-to dish for potlucks or office food days?
No. Honestly, it's just chips and dip. You know, because it's so simple.
It's so easy. Yeah.
So easy.
And everybody likes it. They always is eaten. Yes. Do you have a favorite Nebraska landmark or destination?
Honestly, it would be the Capitol. Because growing up here in Lincoln, every child has that experience of going there. Yeah. And I swear, going there and, you know, working with the state, I happen to be in the Capitol when they bring children in, and they all do the whole.
Yeah,
it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And I'm like, I was like that too, seeing it. So,
Yep. Any final advice you would give someone interested in a career with the state?
Definitely go in and apply. I would say start off with the SOS program if you're unsure of what department you want to go into or what team. I've been taken care of so very well with the state, and I offer it to anyone who is like wanting to start a career. In fact, with my major, I majored in English. I'm using my degree because I'm typing up standards of procedures and letters and memos still and stuff. So yeah, you just don't know what you're going to get into when you get in with the state, but it's so worth it to get in and give it a shot.
I love that.
Great advice.
Yes, it is. Well, Deirdre, thank you again for your time today.
Thank you, you guys.
It's been so great to learn about you and your state of Nebraska career.
Yes.
For our listeners, if you want to check out our great career opportunities, including those with the Department of Agriculture or the SOS program, go to statejobs.nebraska.gov and click on Find a State Job. While you are there, you can also find links to our Nebraska State Job social media, including Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. We would love to have you follow us to learn even more about our great careers. If you want to learn more about the Department of Agriculture, go to nda.nebraska.gov. There's also a lot of great content on the Nebraska Department of Administrative Services YouTube channel, including this podcast. So make sure to search for us there and hit that subscribe button so you're notified when future podcast episodes drop. On behalf of our guest, Deirdre, my co-host Brian, and myself, I want to thank you for tuning in and learning more about the great careers here in the Good Life.